The political world often presents itself as a simple battlefield between two sides, the left and the right, two opposing visions of society, two moral universes supposedly fighting for the future of civilization. If you ask people where they stand politically, most will answer immediately, I'm left or I'm right. Yet, if you press further and ask what those labels mean, the clarity quickly dissolves. What exactly does left represent? What does the right defend? Is the left always about progress and equality, while the right represents order and tradition? Or are these categories far more fluid than they appear? The deeper one looks into the history of these terms, the more unstable they become. What counts as left or right changes from country to country and from century to century. A political position that appears revolutionary in one era can become conservative in another, and yet the language of left and right persists across democracies around the world. The persistence raises an important question. Why does this division remain so powerful, even when its meaning constantly shifts? The answer lies partly in history. To understand how this happened, we have to begin with the moments politics formally adopted the terminology. The political meaning of left and right emerged during the French Revolution in 1789. At the time, France was facing a deep financial and social crisis. King Louis XVI convened the Estates General, a political assembly composed of representatives from the clergy, the nobility, and the common people. The debates inside this assembly quickly became intense. One of the central questions was whether France should maintain the traditional hierarchical order or move toward political reform and greater representation.
Your Majesty, I implore you to consider the ramifications of this alliance.
The stability of our kingdom hangs in the balance.
During these debates, a physical division appeared in the assembly hall. Representatives who supported major reforms gathered on the left side of the chamber. Those who favored preserving the traditional order, which were monarchy, church authority, and aristocratic privilege, sat on the right. At first, this division was simply practical, a way to organize voting and debate. But gradually the spatial arrangement took on symbolic meaning. Those on the left came to represent political change and reform. Those on the right came to represent stability and the defense of established institutions. From this moment onward, the labels began to spread. As parliamentary systems developed across Europe in the 19th century, the language of left and right became a convenient shorthand for political alignment. The left generally became associated with movements seeking social reform and equality. The right became associated with defending tradition, hierarchy, and established institutions. But this historical explanation only tells part of the story. Long before the French Revolution, human societies had already developed symbolic meanings for the left and right sides of the body. The anthropologist Robert Hertz, writing in 1909, was one of the first scholars to study this phenomenon systematically. Hertz observed that across many cultures, the right hand was associated with purity, authority, and legitimacy, while the left was often linked to impurity, disorder, or misfortune. These associations appeared in religious rituals, social customs, and linguistic patterns throughout the world. For example, in many societies, the right hand is used for greeting, blessing, and eating, while the left hand is avoided in formal or sacred interactions.
In Ghana, we don't use two hands to eat.
That's right. Then what do I do with my left hand?
Nothing.
Seems like a waste.
If you are eating with this, the left hand is insulting to the elders, to yourself.
What if I'm just doing other daily activities?
You can't greet with your left hand. You can't show directions with your left hand. It's like the left hand is useless.
These customs reflect a long-standing symbolic hierarchy between the two sides of the body. These cultural meanings were already deeply embedded in human thinking long before modern political institutions emerged. When the French Revolution introduced the left-right political divide, it did not arise in a symbolic vacuum. Instead, it tapped into an ancient classification system that humans had been using for centuries. As political theorists Fritz Binfait and Walter van Beek argue, the political polarity between left and right reflects a deeper anthropological dynamic. The contrast between accepting the existing social order and questioning it. In this sense, the political divide mirrors an older cognitive structure. The right tends to align with attaining order and stability, while the left aligns with challenging or transforming that order. Yet, it is crucial to understand that these meanings are not fixed ideological doctrines. The content of the categories constantly shifts depending on context. For example, in 19th century Europe, the political right often defended monarchy and aristocratic privilege, while the left advocated republicanism and democratic reform. By the 20th century, the divide had expanded to include economic questions. The left became associated with labor movements, socialism, and redistributive policies, while the right often emphasized free markets, private property, and national tradition. But these associations are historically contingent. In some contexts, movements that once represented radical change eventually become defenders of the status quo. As Fritz Binfait and Walter van Beek note out, in France after 1871, the political left harbored a desire for change following defeat in the Franco-Prussian War. But around the turn of the century, the political context changed. The fallout of the Dreyfus Affair and the emergence of pacifism, especially among the political left, led to the left abandoning and the right adopting the desire for revenge. And so this fluidity reveals an important insight. The left-right spectrum is less about specific policies and more about a structural relationship between competing visions of order and change. The evaluation of political positions is rarely so straightforward. What one group considers the defense of legitimate order may appear to another group as resistance to necessary progress. As we've seen, history provides many examples of this ambiguity. Another profound example is the American Civil Rights Movement, which challenged the established legal and social order of segregation. From the perspective of activists, this challenge represented justice and progress. Yet defenders of segregation framed their position as preserving tradition and stability. Each side interpreted its role through a moral narrative. Similarly, revolutionary movements throughout history has often portrayed themselves as correcting a corrupt or unjust order. Meanwhile, defenders of the existing system portray themselves as protecting society from chaos or instability. The labels of left and right do not inherently determine which side holds the moral high ground. Instead, they provide a framework through which political conflict is interpreted. This framework also shows how societies imagine political space. Modern discussions often portray the political spectrum as a straight line with the left at one end and the right at the other. According to this model, political beliefs simply fall somewhere along a linear scale between two extremes. Real political landscapes are rarely so simple. Individuals can hold combinations of beliefs that do not fit neatly along a single dimension. Economic views, cultural attitudes, and political priorities often intersect in unpredictable ways. The linear spectrum simplifies a far more complex ideological terrain. Nevertheless, the left-right model persists because it offers something psychologically powerful: a way to organize political conflict into a comprehensible narrative. Humans have always relied on binary oppositions to interpret the world. Concepts such as order and chaos, sacred and profane, loyalty and betrayal, structure how societies understand moral conflict. In this sense, the spectrum functions not only as a political classification but also as a symbolic system. It transforms complex political struggles into a familiar structure of opposing forces. In a nutshell, one side represents preservation, the other transformation. But the simplicity of this framework can also obscure reality, because once people begin to identify strongly with one side of the spectrum, political disagreements often become moralized. Opponents are no longer simply people with different ideas, they become representatives of the wrong side of history. The irony is that the content of the spectrum keeps evolving even as the structure remains intact. Economic debates that once defined the divide have increasingly been joined by cultural issues, identity politics, and questions about the globalization and national sovereignty. Political alliances shift, ideological boundaries blur, and positions that once belonged to one camp migrate to the other. Yet, despite these transformations, the language of left and right remains deeply entrenched in democratic discourse. This persistence suggests that the divide is not merely ideological but also cognitive. This reflects a human tendency to simplify complex realities into opposing categories. The political spectrum, as you've seen, began as a practical sitting arrangement during a revolutionary assembly. It gained strength from older cultural symbolism about right and left, purity and disorder, order and disruption. Over time, it evolved into a dominant framework through which modern societies understand political conflict. But the deeper lesson of the left-right divide may not be about politics at all. It may reveal something about how humans interpret the world. Faced with complexity, we create sides. Faced with uncertainty, we draw lines. Faced with competing visions of society, we turn them into opposing camps. Left and right. Two directions, two narratives, two interpretations of how society should move forward. Yet somewhere between these two poles lies the messy reality of political life, a reality that rarely fits neatly into either category. And perhaps that is the final paradox of the political spectrum. The world it tries to simplify has never truly been divided into just two sides. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. If you thought the video was thought-provoking, why don't you subscribe and leave a comment on what your thoughts are about the subject matter at hand. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.